I wrote 2x plus 3x equals 90. She realized that this is 90, this also has to be 90. That intersection, it forms a linear pair. So we can set that up. Did anyone do any other equation? Yeah. Yeah, and then you also knew that the whole thing added to 90. So what Nolan did, which is perfectly fine because it's what he noticed first, is he said, well, 2x and 3x together is 5x. And I know this is 90, and this equals 180. Is he wrong? No, it's exactly the same thing. It's just written slightly different. It's what he saw first. And you might say, well, my way's faster. But if it's not faster, if that's not what he noticed first. Like, it's whatever you see and makes sense to you. And some of you guys might have just said, well, I just said 5x equals 90 to begin with, and I just divided that and figured it out. That's fine. In geometry, a little bit of kind of like outside the box thinking is okay. One way is not like better than the other. I just need you guys to be able to show me what you're up to. So that way, if you make a silly mistake, like before Drake had like just totally rewrote the number in a wrong way, that's why I like to see your work, is because I want to know that you know what you're doing, and I want to give you guys the credit for what you know how to do. So if anything, overshare your work. So 5x equals 90. That's the same thing when I get over here. Once you move that over, so we divide by 5 and find out x is going to be what? 18. 18, thank you. And again, have a calculator for Monday so that you don't have to be doing long division over and over again, which is fine if you like long division. Most people were not, and to have to do it all the time. And so if we had to put that back on, which they didn't ask us to do, we put it back in and find out they're 36 and then 54 for those two angles. But all they asked for was x in this case. All right, questions? So then in letter B, any thoughts on how we're going to come up with this one? I hope with this one you can use the 180 idea, unless you want a really complicated equation. The 180 is going to be a little overcomplicated in this case, because there's two variables this time. So if I try to write an equation with 3x plus 7 and y plus 75 equals 180, that would be a pretty complex equation. Then I have to write another one using this side. That's another complex equation. And then we have to do systems of equations, which is something you guys learned in algebra. Probably haven't done it since algebra. So there's a much easier way. Does anyone see it? Anyone see our easier way for this? Yeah, Drake?
We can see both x equations and put in the letter together, and then we can do 60 would be
Oh, so yeah, so he's talking about it all equaling 360. The only issue with that is we still have it having two variables. Anytime there's two variables in one equation, it's a little more complicated than we want. Michael, I was thinking you get this. Yeah.
Can't you do 3x plus 7 equals 5x minus 35?
Why do we know those two are equal?
Vertical angles.
Yeah, last time we learned that vertical angles are always going to be equal. So if I have that intersection of two lines intersecting, the angles that are opposite each other are automatically going to be equal. It's something you can always assume. It's a really helpful thing to know, because otherwise all the equations we were thinking about writing without that were a lot more complicated. So we can say that 3x plus 7 equals 5x minus 35. And that becomes an equation I've known how to solve back since algebra. So this is something we know how to solve. This time we have to bring the 3x over, so that's when I have to undo it. So then we can move this 35 back over. So we get 42 equals 2x. We divide by 2. We find out x is 21. So that gives us our x value. And there's a couple of different ways to find y. You could find y the same way Michael suggested. So those are also vertical angles. So this and this are the same. So those two can be set equal. Otherwise, you could use the fact that now you know x is 21. You can put that back in and figure out what this is and then figure out y. But I think just setting the two y's equal, is that easier? You're going to do it that way? Okay. So do 3y plus 5 equals y plus 75. Another pretty straightforward problem here that we can solve. So we have 2y equals 70. So y ends up being 35 when I divide by 2. And in this case, all they asked for was x and y. I have a tendency to want to go back and find the angles. You don't have to. They're just asking you for x and y in this case. All right, questions there at all? So we're going to use the rest of our time for us to work on homework. Basically, what the homework we need to do for Friday is what we haven't done here. So let me write that out just in case it's not totally clear. So you already should have done this. But for Friday, you should be doing 17 and 19. And then 29 through 43 odds. So that's like what's left over. So if you've already done, if you did some on mistake, go back and check them. But this is basically the rest of the 3 through 43 that we didn't get last time. And if you're curious, I do give you guys the odds because the odds are in the back of the textbook. So if you look in the back of the book, you're like, why are you giving us the ones that have the answers? If you're like working at home or like trying something and you're trying to figure out, you know, am I doing this right? I'm okay with you guys having the answer if you're actually doing the work, if you're actually going through it that way. Now, if you're just copying the answers out of the back, that's not very helpful for you. All right, so homework is due for tomorrow. You have the rest of the time to work on that. Let me know if I